Do you want to make your readers cry, laugh, yell at the page in rage? Then this is the video for you. Hey guys, I'm Marilyn and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about conveying emotion in your writing. I have to be honest and say that this is one of the strengths of my own writing. I know that this is something that I can do quite well, whereas, something like fight scenes are actually my Achilles heel. So I feel like I can really help you guys with some tips for conveying emotion in your writing. Tip number 1 is using the right point of view. I'm not going to go very deep into different points of view because that isn't what this video is about. But what is important for now is to know that certain points of view make it easier to convey emotion to your reader. Third person omniscient is a great point of view, but it could be more difficult to have your reader feel the emotion that the characters are feeling because there is a big distance between the reader and the characters. So unless you're using expert techniques like free indirect discourse or stream of consciousness, it's going to be more difficult to convey emotion with third person omniscient. If you're writing a story that is dependent on having the reader feel the character's emotions, I would suggest using either first person or third person deep. Now, I think most of you know how first person works. That's the I pronouns one, and that really places minimal distance between the character and the reader because that character is also the narrator. So the reader should be experiencing the emotions as they happen to the character. It's much easier to get that sense of empathy between the two. Third person deep is actually my favorite point of view to write in. Now, it's third person subjective, but a little deeper than that. So we all know what third person is, he, she, that kind of thing. Third person objective is closer to third person omniscient. Third person subjective is where, even though it is a third person narrator, it follows a character, a specific character for specific scenes. It could be multiple points of view that you use in the story, but it usually involves things like focalization and terms like that. So this will be where your narrator is like a little person sitting on the character's shoulder. So they are seeing what your character is seeing, experiencing it, things like that. Third person deep is when your narrator is in the mind of your character. It's like having, let's use demonic possession as an example just for fun. It's like having the narrator as a little demon there inside the character who sees what the character is seeing and also knows exactly what the character is feeling and thinking. So it's still third person, but it is very much closer to the character. So I would really suggest using either first person or third person deep if conveying emotion is something you struggle with, or it is a very important aspect of the specific story that you are writing. Tip number 2 is to use physical reactions and metaphors to convey emotion. So I know the show don't tell rule gets thrown around a lot and a lot of people live by it biblically. You don't have to show everything, but with emotion, it is quite important to show rather than tell. So saying she was sad is telling your reader what your character is feeling. Saying tears rolled down her cheeks as her body shook with sobs is more emotive. I hope it comes across that way. I hope that you can see that by showing the actual physical reactions, the trembling, the sobbing, the tears, you are showing the reader what the character is feeling and not just telling it to them she was sad. You can also use metaphors for this, like a fist clenching around her heart, things like that. But you have to be careful of using cliches, because if you're going to use cliches to show emotion, like an ocean of tears or things like that, then it also isn't going to have an impact, because the reader is going to read it like any other mediocre sentence. So you have to use metaphors that have an impact, and then also the physical reaction rather than just naming the emotion, because a lot of the times the emotion being named takes away from what that feeling is actually like. So have your reader see the character having that emotion, have them experience it with the character and figure out themselves, okay, I have had these reactions and this is how I felt in that moment. And I promise you that will be much better at having the reader also feel the emotions. So tip number 3 is to use form to your advantage. This includes things like sentence structure, diction, and even the typography. So this involves using your instincts a lot. This isn't really something that someone can concretely teach you how to do. It comes with practicing writing and a lot of reading. But here are a few tips for what to look out for when you are writing an emotional scene. If your character's emotion is something like fear, or they are in a very dangerous situation, then you'll use short, choppier sentences, maybe even single word sentences. Whereas if your character is feeling serene or maybe even melancholy or sad, using more long flowing sentences with lots of punctuation marks might be more accurate. Also, if you are writing the thoughts of a character, then you can use the punctuation marks and sentence structure to show us the way that character is thinking. If your character is thinking in a very choppy way, they are anxious, their thoughts run on each other, then you can use that. You can use your dashes, you can cut off sentences in the middle, things like that. Show us the way your character is thinking and feeling through the way you write the sentences. Once again, this isn't something I can concretely tell you, no, do A, B, and C, but if you are tuned into that, if you take the time to really sit and go, how would my character's feelings be conveyed in words, in sentences, in structure, then it can be a really good way to have your reader exactly understand and experience the emotion that your character is feeling. Next up is remembering that less is often more. You don't need pages and pages of emotion dumping, of heart-wrenching tears and sobbing and explaining what the character is feeling. Sometimes 1 or 2 sentences can be enough. In fact, long emotional pages can have the opposite effect. It can really stunt your reader and make it boring for them and have it not be impactful in any way. Similarly, you don't have to inundate your writing with one emotional scene after the other, after the other, after the other, because once again, this will desensitize the reader and none of them will have impact. Having comic relief scenes, action scenes, happy scenes, fluffy scenes, plot-driven scenes woven into your book, and then have these emotional scenes just placed in where it is appropriate will be much more effective than trying to write this tear-wrenching novel that just goes from one absolute sobbing scene to another. So remember that in terms of less is more, it's that specific scene. You don't have to elaborate too much, but it's also in terms of your whole novel. You don't have to have emotional scene after emotional scene after emotional scene in order for the book to have an emotional impact on your readers. The last tip on conveying emotion is allowing yourself to feel the feelings. I hate to break it to you, but writing is feeling. If you are a writer, you're probably a deeply emotional person, even if that doesn't come to the surface quite a lot. So what's important when you're writing, especially when you're writing something that is a strong emotional scene, then you have to allow yourself to feel those feelings. Open yourself up to what the character is experiencing, to what that character is thinking and going through. It's okay to smile at your computer screen like a mad woman. It is okay to cry or scream or pull weird faces or even laugh out loud. You know, you are writing something that is supposed to evoke those feelings in others, so you won't be able to do that if you can't feel them yourself. If you are so intensely in that moment that you feel it, then the way you write it will probably be very impactful and convey that emotion quite clearly. So please, allow yourself to feel the full spectrum of human emotion while you are writing your book. So those are the tips I have for you guys on writing emotion. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please be sure to give it a like and a share. And if you want writing advice videos every Friday, then you have to hit that subscribe button. I also upload a lot of bonus videos, so if you want an email notification to your inbox as soon as I upload, then you should also ring that little bell down there. Please leave a comment if there are any videos that you would like to request. You can also find me on my website, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Tumblr. All the links are listed below, and then I'll see you guys next week. Bye!